Welcome to CS Design Studios' presentation, The Marketing Corner, with co-host Sean Campbell and Wyatt Chambers. The Marketing Corner is your source for the latest and greatest in today's world of marketing and entrepreneurship. And now, without further ado, it's Sean Campbell and Wyatt Chambers.
And welcome to the Marketing Corner presented by CS Design Studios. And this is Sean Campbell, CMO for CS Design Studios. Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate it. On the board today, we got Aaron, our Google Business Profile Specialist. You're not going to do a clap. Lily's not here, so we're not going to have as much audience response today. And we have a very, very special guest. In fact, since going with the CS Design Studios Marketing Corner, John, did you know you're our first guest?
I had no idea.
Yeah, this is a special day for you, John.
All right, got it. It's Friday night, man. Bring it on.
No, the previous CS Design Studios Marketing Corners were featured myself, Aaron, and Wyatt with Lily. And I think we had Tyson on one of them as well. But you're the first quote-unquote outsider.
All right.
So I had to vet you. I had to vouch for you and everything. So I said, he's all right. He's okay.
I was evaluating you as well.
So, back in the day when I was doing my own podcast on my own for my previous social media, you were one of my guests and you were one of the top 3 or 4 most favorite podcasts I had because I'll let you introduce yourself and what you do, but it was just, I learned so much, not only the information, but really about you in that podcast. Every Thursday night, I go to sleep listening to it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's a little creepy.
Because, Valentine's Day generally lands on a Thursday, so, Anyway, John, introduce yourself, John Waechter, and tell us about a few of the hats that you wear.
Yeah, sure. Well, this whole podcast is kind of like about entrepreneurship in total, just as an umbrella topic. Mm-hmm. And I'm a different kind of entrepreneur. There are a lot of different types of entrepreneurs. There's ones that start their own company. Mm-hmm. There's ones that wear a variety of different hats. There are ones that actually start companies with the single vision to sell them, like within 3 years, type of deal. I'm more of a longer term type of guy right now. I grew up in the corporate world and was a corporate controller for an international company for a lot of years, and then I was basically instructed to go over to sales and marketing and clean some house type of deal. And so I was a VP of sales and marketing for multinational, and I was responsible for all of North America, Latin and South America, and Australia, Asia. Pretty much the only thing that I wasn't responsible for was Europe and Africa.
Jeez.
And then after that, I decided to step out of the corporate world and become my own entrepreneur. And I started my own company and ran that for 14 years. And it was here in Tucson. So we manufactured home decor accessories, ceramic home decor accessories like wall sconces and switchblade covers and night lights and all the things. Our vision was, bring the home together. So everybody moves into a home and you got your furniture and all that kind of stuff, which we never got into. But our shtick was bring the home together with accessories, and ceramic, hand-painted, very artful accessories. So we did that my wife and I did that for about 14 years. Wow. And then for a variety of reasons, I decided that I wanted a stint in healthcare because I'd never dabbled in healthcare. And so I went into healthcare for 9 years. And I was director of operations for a local company here, but we were in 33 states, had 450 contracts with hospitals across the country, and had probably about 100 employees underneath me.
Wow.
Just basically moving equipment into operating rooms and being in a surgical environment. So, and then in 2015, I decided that I wanted to reemerge as an entrepreneur rather than a corporate citizen, even though it was, by Wall Street's, determination, it was a small company, even though it's big to me. And so we started doing the things. We started doing more entrepreneurial things, and so my wheelhouse right now is behavioral analytics, workforce analytics. So we work with organizations to make sure that we have the right butts in the right seats, and that we manage culture accordingly, as opposed to the churn and burn and things like that.
Right.
I also, that's one hat. I currently think I wear 5 hats. One is the workforce analytics, and the other one is I help companies with their strategic planning. Currently working on a strategic plan for an entrepreneur who is setting up a surgical laser business in Australia.
Oh, wow.
So, in fact, I was just on the phone with him right before I got here. And then we also do, yet again, another hat is a lot of networking facilitation.
Right.
We do a lot of that. I facilitate 5 networking groups right now on a monthly basis. A couple of them are twice a month, and that's probably going to grow a little bit. That's that on the interesting side is not a monetary thing.
Right.
It's just a lead generation thing.
Right.
And so we just kind of just follow the leads whenever they come up, and people decide that they need some help.
Right.
And that leads to our sales training and business coaching hat. Whereas we run into an awful lot of people, especially retired military here in this town, as well as people that somebody has packaged out. They're 55 years old and they don't want to pay them the $150,000 anymore, so they just package them out.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a lot of talent and they've got a lot of many times they've invented something or they have some sort of other passion. They just don't know how to sell. So we give them the blocking and tackling of selling and all that kind of stuff. And lastly is executive recruiting. And so we do some placement of top leaders. We don't really get involved into hiring like a staffing agency would be. It's just more of a top leader, and so that's not as voluminous as the rest of my hats. But when they come up, we have our regulars that when they need some help, they give us a shout, and so that's kind of like me in a nutshell right now.
That's a big. You should put a beep right there. Nutshell. I can't find it. Yeah, I don't think Wyatt would appreciate that. So there's a few things I want to follow up on from what you just mentioned there. There it is, a big beep. Nutshell. Since the pandemic, you mentioned culture.
Yes.
Right. Give us a few of the biggest shifts in culture since the end of the pandemic that you've seen.
There's a bunch, but the biggest one is so many people left the workforce.
Yeah.
Which created a void in many corporate cultures. And I don't mean corporate in the sense that big company cultures, even companies that just have 5 or 10 employees. If you've got 10 employees and 5 of them don't come back, you've got a massive void on so many levels that ain't funny. And the overreaction to the pandemic by too many business people was churn and burn. Let's just get bodies in the seats and let's deal with it. Okay. And that's, so a lot of people didn't want my workforce analytics services because they didn't care.
Wow.
I mean, they didn't care about the person that they were putting in that seat.
They just wanted a pulse.
They just wanted a pulse.
Wow.
And we're coming out of that overreaction now.
Yeah.
So now I'm busier than ever trying to find right people for the right for the right seats, for the right because what we do is we measure the genetic drives of candidates or employees in a company, and then we measure the ideal genetic drives for each position on the org chart. And so we make sure that when our clients are hiring somebody, that they're hiring somebody that has similar drives required for the job.
Right.
And not only that is hiring, but promoting as well. The biggest mistake you can make is to mispromote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you may take your biggest sales closer and make them VP of sales.
Yeah.
Usually a very bad idea.
Yeah.
Because the drives required for those two positions are extremely different. But business owners don't see it that way. They just say, hey, that's my best salesperson. They got to be the best VP, right?
Right.
Or the best computer programmer is now director of IT, and that is like, it's night and day, those two functions.
Yeah. And
people don't recognize that. So culturally speaking, people are starting to realize the error in their ways, if you will, that the churn and burn is basically over. And now I'm getting a lot of phone calls saying, you know what, I've just gone through 6 people in the last 2 years. Help me find the right dude or the right gal.
Yeah. So this next question is actually for you, Aaron. So I don't want to say you're just an employee. You're way more than just an employee here at CS. I mean, with all the responsibilities you have, it's, I don't want to insult you, but as a quote unquote employee of CS, CS actually, you were allowed to work from home during the pandemic, correct?
Yes.
What was the biggest adjustment when, we asked you guys to come back for those 4 days? I mean, was it kind of a big shift for you? Did you embrace it? Is it something that took a while for you to kind of get back into? Were you in a space that you were differently than before? I mean, just kind of describe what that felt like to you.
That's a really good question. The adjustment wasn't as bad because we went to a hybrid setting first, which gave us a little bit of time to kind of adjust to being back, and then we came back full time. And you know what? It's so funny. In theory, it's like, oh my God, we have to go back. But in practice, it was just okay. You just get back into your old routine that you had. So it didn't take long to adjust.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. For me, I was right at that phase when you guys were only here like a day or two a week. But I enjoy seeing you guys every day, and it's, even if I don't interact with it, it's just that noise of the guys being here and, the women here. It's just, that gives me a little more energy for the day. You know what I mean? So, And John, going back to another thing that you said, as far as your networking, I really appreciate the fact that you say, with your network, you're doing it 4 or 5 times a month now in various locations.
5.
How you're using that opportunity for leads.
Correct.
Right? So you're creating your own opportunities. And that's something that, before the pandemic, I used to do once a month myself there at the Aloft, right? Phenomenal place to, do your own networking event. Now it's the Sands Club, not as regular for myself. But I think that's one opportunity that many small business owners, they're waiting for those networking groups. Then they complain about it because they don't have the right people there. But you guys are kind of trendsetters, is like you're creating your own opportunities by doing these networking groups.
That's exactly the point. I mean, there's a variety of advantages of doing that, but from a personal standpoint and a personal professional standpoint, that makes any sense. we're looking for paying clients.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if you can't, we just believe in creating our own world.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you can't find these people out in the open, then do something. Create the space,
Yeah.
and get them to come. You know. So now at the Sands Club, for example, it's very normal for us to have almost 50 people
Right.
on any one day.
Yeah.
And over 400 have come through our halls.
Yeah.
And with a sign-in
impressive.
sheet and a database.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's very impressive.
if they sign in, guess what? Got them for life.
You got them.
And so last night, for example, at Skyline Country Club, this is our 6th session, once a month, and we had 40 people.
Nice.
36 of them signed in,
Nice.
and so now we have them.
Yeah.
And they will be out on all of our newsletters and email blasts and promotions and all that kind of stuff. So, so just in the last 2 weeks, for example, I've signed 2 new clients in the last 2 weeks, and I just got a call on the way over here when I was kind of late that he just said, I'm starting this new thing. I need help. I don't know what to do. And so I got a meeting with him on Tuesday coming up, and I pretty much think I'll close him.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a 2-part question, John. When we talk about entrepreneurship, what are some of the key aspects when you have an entrepreneur, you're working with an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or from your experience yourself, that makes a good one become great?
Cash.
That was your shortest answer ever. Cash.
Actually, you got to be able to fund yourself and to get something to make sure that you have the capital and all that. That's kind of like foundational. But you know, when it comes to coaching, or I still go back to curiousness. You have to stay curious, because it doesn't really matter if you're an entrepreneur or retired or anything. Our success, we're always going to be selling.
Right.
Doesn't really matter.
Right.
Aaron's going to be selling. You know, even though he does his Google stuff, he's still selling. He's selling all day long, every day. You know, he's selling to Sean. He's selling to Wyatt.
Yeah.
He's selling to somebody.
He partially sold his he and I have sold the idea of this podcast to Wyatt.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
Sometimes it was subtle, other times more direct.
So the reason that I say curiousness is key is because salespeople in general are problem solvers looking for problems to solve.
Yeah.
And if you cannot identify the problems that need solved, that's because you're not curious enough to look in the right places.
Interesting.
And so curiousness is a key to sales, because it's, you know, all we do is solve problems as a salesperson.
Right.
That's all we do.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And if we can solve the problem, guess what? We get the order.
That's right. That's right. So part B of this question, you know, we talked about, you know, right now we just said what makes a good entrepreneur, business owner, salesperson from good to great. What makes a potentially great entrepreneur / salesperson / small business owner? What makes them go from potentially that to just awful? Just,
You know,
horrendous.
you mean what can blindside somebody, or
blindside somebody? What? Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually going to be arrogance. You know, when you think you know it all, or when you think you have the upper hand in anything, and you forget about there's a whole other world out there that knows all kinds of stuff, and you forget they exist. That'll take you down fast. That'll take you down real fast.
Yeah. In my journey, John, I don't know if I'm sure we talked about this a little bit off and on, but my journey, what really was a catalyst for me starting my own business was the worst year of my life, because I got put in place at every level, professionally, personally. My father had passed away. Just everything. It was a country song, and it was 11 years ago when I was 42. Right, that was the worst year of my life. Period. And I was like, you know what? I got to get rid of this arrogance. I got to wake up every day as if somebody wants to take my lunch. Yep. And I don't want to say it's being paranoid or fearful, but it's just being on guard every single day, Sunday through Saturday. I don't take the weekends off mentally at all. I may take it off physically. I've learned that I need to. Otherwise, I'll hit a wall and sleep for 15 hours.
Right.
But once I adjusted that piece of my mind, and it's like someone's going to wake up and want to take my lunch today, and they're not going to get it, I'm going to eat theirs. That's when I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start my own business, and that's where
that is so common. And I'm speaking from personal experience myself. I left the corporate world. I was making a ton of money, and then and I had a huge bank account at the time and big 401k. And then I say, I'm going to go do this on my own because I don't need these idiots telling me what to do. Right. And then after the first year, I just said, holy moly, this is crap, man. I got to get with it, you know? Right. Because you cannot attack the world as an entrepreneur the same way a corporate employee attacks the world.
Not at all.
There are no weekends off. There are no even the holidays. You got to always stay on your guard.
Absolutely.
And especially if you have employees.
Yeah.
If you have employees, you got to be the one that opens the door.
Yeah.
You got to be the last one out.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that they get paid before you.
Yeah.
And many a months.
Yeah.
Everybody got paid but me.
Yeah.
And that's when you could start thinking about, all right, what's wrong with this formula, and what do I got to do to change my thinking?
Right.
And at the end of the day, I concluded, well, it was my arrogance that got me in trouble.
Yeah.
It was just I just thought I was invincible.
Yeah. Yeah. This past Labor Day, John, I was in this office for about 5 hours.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, the holidays are a time where I'm not going to get no text, no emails. No one's going to call me. I don't want to say they're bothering things, because I appreciate that. I have clients that are, needing things from me to take care of. But a holiday, John, that's a day where if I work 5 hours, that's the equivalent of 15.
Yeah.
It really is.
Exactly.
I'm in this office. I had the music up loud. I was hoping no one would come in,
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was at a meeting, an all-morning meeting. It was on that, when I mentioned earlier, that strategic planning session about Australia.
Yeah.
I was on a conference call with Australia for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then on either side of that 2.5 hours was a half an hour before and a half an hour after with local people here, trying to set the stage and get the objective for the call down pat, so we were all on the same wavelength and all that kind of stuff. So I mean that's what happens when your wife calls.
What 2 words, and I want your thought on these 2 words: imposter syndrome.
Oh.
I try to throw you a curveball. I don't think it's going to work, but imposter
syndrome. Imposter syndrome is very real, and we use the predictive index a lot.
Yes.
To blow through that.
Yeah.
To see when we're being BS'd and when we're not, and so because imposter syndrome is a subjective, qualitative effort by somebody to misguide you.
Yeah.
And what we use to try and, we know it exists, and we know it exists in the hiring, we know it exists in the promoting angle, we know it exists in why people can't identify their corporate culture. And so we use data-driven analytics to raise that red flag and say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This person is not who he or she says they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, that's the crux of imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So you and I have known each other for a good 6-7 years now, and I've taken that test, the predictive index, 3 times. And every single time I've learned something, or something has reminded myself of how I'm wired. So I would highly, highly recommend if you're listening to this podcast, reach out to John. So I'm going to ask you for your contact information here pretty soon. But the value that I get out of each of those 3 times is priceless. It really is. Because I'm like, oh yeah, that's the reason why I'm kind of a jerk this time. Oh yeah, that's the reason why I'm here on Labor Day working 5 hours. Oh yeah, but it's that understanding of it that it's like it validates a lot of things, but it also tells me I really need to work on this a little bit, tweak this and do this and be more, conscientious of some of the, my habits and decisions. But how can someone get a hold of you to talk about maybe doing this index with you?
Okay, very easily. Anybody could reach out to me by phone. My phone is on 24/7. And
okay,
all right. Even Labor Day.
Hi, John. What are you doing?
Yeah, I get that on Facebook. My phone number is 520-370-8232. That's 520-370-8232. Mm-hmm. And my email is jwwaechter@comcast.net. You can search for me on LinkedIn and hook up that away. I respond to everything. We have a Arizona Sands Club Facebook page, which I manage. Not as good as I should.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, right. Hey, you created it.
I created it, and I asked you guys. Hey, I asked you guys. You're like, no, we got it. And I'm like, all righty.
So yeah, you can even call up the Sands Club and ask for me, and they'll probably
love us there.
Yeah,
by the way,
they will get a message to me if that's the vehicle of last resort. But anyway, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what I do. It's we call it the owner's manual to you. Mm-hmm. We have an owner's manual for our car, our refrigerator. Mm-hmm. The ice maker in the refrigerator, the dishwasher. We don't have an owner's manual for us.
Wow. Yeah.
And so the predictive index and the whole industry of behavioral analytics is basically the owner's manual to you.
Okay, so 2 last questions. What's the best movie you've seen in the last 12 months?
The best movie?
Yes.
The only movie I've seen in the last 12 months is Oppenheimer.
I love that. That's a great movie.
So that has to be the best.
You got to make sure you use the restroom before because it's a classic. I mean, Christopher Nolan movie. You miss one scene, you might as well just start all over.
Exactly.
Leave, go back and.
So in that regard, it could also be the worst movie I've seen, but it's a pretty good one.
Okay, the best local. This is the last question. This is huge.
Okay.
Best local meal you've had.
The best local meal
You can include your own. You're a bit of a food connoisseur.
Yeah, I appreciate my own food more than others.
Yeah.
But when I basted eggs inside my fresh pesto.
Oh wow.
For brunch. That was pretty awesome.
Every once in a while, John sends me photos of what he's making. It's like, wow. You've even brought me some holiday spirits that you.
I have now 4 flavors.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We have vanilla. We're talking about a coffee liqueur here.
A coffee liqueur.
And we have vanilla, almond, caramel, and citrus.
I think you brought me the caramel.
I did.
Which was phenomenal.
Yeah. And the newest one was citrus.
What? Really? Interesting.
Just a
interesting
touch of orange in your coffee.
Yeah.
Or on your cake or dessert, whatever you want to do with a coffee. With a coffee liqueur.
I'm hoping that this podcast has earned me at least a different flavor this year. Yeah,
it's highly possible.
Yes,
highly possible.
I told you, Aaron. I told you I get something out of them.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all. This is a phenomenal. How long has this gone? About 10 minutes.
29.
Wow. Well, we might break this one up into two halves.
All right.
Waechter Part 1, Waechter Part 2.
Well, that's your deal, not mine.
Cool. So thank you, John, for being on. Thank you, Aaron,
thank
for
Yes.
running the show here.
Yeah,
Appreciate the opportunity, guys.
Yeah, really appreciate everybody listening on this. And I'm gonna have a little surprise as our next guest in a few weeks. And all I gotta say is she is phenomenal. So thank you.
Cool.
See you next time. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Marketing Corner. Follow us on Facebook or visit us at csdesignsstudios.com today.